never the one to write up a song for just anyone. I was always the one to find myself lost in long conversations, oh, 'cause I've always been told that things will unfold if you keep on waiting. But then you came along and proved me all wrong. I was so mistaken, 'cause you glue all the pieces back together. Yeah, you take all my wrongs and make them better. Yeah, you're making me wanna try forever. And I feel so free, oh my sweet baby.
Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be plant-based meal ideas for you that are also budget friendly. As we know, the cost of everything has gone up, including food, and I think we're all looking to save a little bit of money wherever we can. But you don't have to compromise on the quality of your meals, because as it so happens, a lot of these whole plant-based foods, especially in the starch family with, the whole food starches like potatoes and sweet potatoes and grains and corn and beans, they tend to be really inexpensive anyways. When you get into produce, that can vary a bit in price, and yes, it can be a little bit pricey, but I don't eat just non-starchy vegetables and fruits. I also get the bulk of my calories from these very inexpensive starches. And even if you're not 100% plant-based, even if you add meat or dairy to these dishes, once you see the cost of these meals, you're gonna see that it can still be quite budget friendly, just as long as you're not making meat and dairy the star of the plate. Keep in mind that the prices you're gonna see here reflect where I live here in upstate New York. And as you can imagine, New York can be a little bit expensive for some things. So where you live and shop, it might be a little bit different. But I'm gonna list the prices that are as close as possible to an average of what I can purchase here. Here are some tips if you want to try to save a little bit of money on your fruits and vegetables. Try to buy whatever might be in season for where you live. That could save you some money. Here in upstate New York, we don't have an incredibly long growing season, and then there's little pockets of time throughout the year when we have stuff and then it's gone in the blink of an eye, like garlic scapes or fiddlehead ferns, berries. Those are here and gone pretty quickly. And then through the fall months, like September, it's just bountiful. There's just so much here, and I absolutely go crazy with the produce. And then the winter and the colder months it's a very long season here, so we tend to rely on the root vegetables, winter squashes, kale grows okay in the cold here. So just try to learn what might be in season for where you live, and if you can, try to buy more of your produce that way. Also, if you have a local company that gets produce from local farms and then delivers it to people's homes, that's a great option. This isn't going to be available, I know, to everybody, but if you happen to have it in your area, check it out and see if it works for you. We have a company that recently popped up here, and they get a lot of stuff local. I tend to save a lot of money on my produce this way, and it's delivered to my house every week, so I can pretty much do all my produce shopping this way if I wanted to. And don't discount the power of frozen fruits and vegetables. People poo-poo these things off thinking that they're inferior when they're far from inferior. In fact, in a lot of cases, they can be even more nutritionally dense than the stuff that's been sitting out and transported across the country that ends up at your grocery store. So don't discount those. In fact, when I get my little produce delivery, for the first 4 or 5 days, I've got some decent produce to work with. But for the end of the week, I can turn to my frozen fruits and vegetables. They're perfectly fine, and they can save you a little bit of money depending on what you get. And totally off topic, but I do want to note that I started a second YouTube channel for my soap and candle and bath and body business. It's called Radiance Bath and Spa Essentials, which is the name of my company. I am trying to get my website going again and getting some products on there, and I just thought it would be fun to do some tutorials and share some of my knowledge that I've gained over the past 20 plus years doing this. So I have one video on there now on how to make rebatch soap from pre-made base. If you're interested in any of that stuff, head on over and check it out. For those of you that have already been over there, seen the video, subscribed, thank you so much. It's going to take some time to grow, but it's going to be a fun process. All right, moving right along to today's video. These are meant to be ideas for you, so if you don't like something, or maybe you don't have something on hand, you can substitute something different. Do the seasonings however you like. If you're oil-free or salt-free, leave those things out. Maybe you're not 100% plant-based, or maybe you are and the people that are eating this meal with you aren't. You can add meat or dairy to these and still have a plant-rich meal. They're like a base to build from. So I hope you enjoy these, and let's get started. The first thing I'm making here are baked potatoes, and I know, more potatoes, but there's a reason that I eat these so much. It's because they're cheap, they're easy to make, and I can serve them a lot of different ways. So the way I've been doing these has been just to poke holes in them with a fork, and then I take about a teaspoon of olive oil, rub that into my hands, and then coat all the potatoes with that, top it with salt and pepper, and then I'm ready to bake it. Now I find that this gives them a really nice crispy skin, and they're done perfectly inside and they don't get dried out. But if you're oil or salt free, you can certainly leave those out. Then I bake it at 400 Fahrenheit or 204 Celsius for about 1 hour and 15 minutes. All right, now I'm moving on to a Southwest style black bean and corn soup. So for this, I'm taking half of a 1 pound bag of frozen corn, half of a red bell pepper diced, half of a green bell pepper diced, half of a red onion diced, 1 28-ounce can of crushed tomatoes, half of a 15-ounce can of black beans that I've rinsed and drained, 2 tablespoons of chili powder, 1 teaspoon of ground cumin, and about 3 cups of no chicken broth. The rest of the bell pepper strips and the beans, as well as a little bit of the crushed tomatoes and diced onion, I'm going to save for another recipe. If you're cooking low fat, don't skimp out on the flavors. One way I do this is by building different layers of flavor in my dish. So for the onions, I heat them over medium-high heat with a splash of water and a pinch of salt, which helps them to sweat. And I saute for about 5 to 8 minutes until they turn translucent and start to brown a bit. And I add in my garlic and saute for another minute. Then I add in my diced bell peppers, and again, I'm going to let these saute for about 5 minutes. I'll add a splash of water if I need to prevent sticking. And then I add in my crushed tomatoes, and again, I'm going to let this simmer for about 5 minutes to cook down and really concentrate the flavor. Then I add in the rest of my ingredients. So I'm adding about 3 cups of the no chicken broth and the spices, and then I'm going to add in the corn and the black beans. I'm going to bring this to a boil, and once it comes to a boil, I put the lid on and reduce it to a simmer and let it cook for about 30 minutes. I'm using the rest of the beans to make a delicious black bean dip, so I put those into a small food processor along with about a 1/4 cup of the reserved crushed tomatoes, a 1/4 cup of the diced onion, a little bit of chili powder, a little pinch of salt, and I have about a tablespoon of water to help this along. So I'm just going to puree it until I get a nice consistency, adding a little tiny bit of water there just to help it along and make it a little bit smoother. And it was fine just like this, but I decided to add a little bit of lime juice, which really gave it a nice flavor. September is a great month here because we have a bounty of produce available, and the romaine lettuce has just looked great lately. So I picked up a head of romaine, and what I do is I just chop it up and I wash it and I try to dry it as good as I can. Then I keep it tightly sealed in a storage container in the fridge, and I can usually get 4 to 5 days out of this. And here I'm just shredding up a carrot using one of those julienne peelers that I picked up at one of my local stores. And then I'm gonna dice up some of those red and green bell pepper strips and throw those on for a really simple salad. Since I decided to use some lime juice in the black bean dip, I'm going to use the rest of this and give the soup a little spritz with the lime juice to brighten the flavor a little bit, and the soup is finished. Remember all those potatoes I made? Well, here's an idea for using some of the leftovers after they've been in the fridge overnight. So I take out whatever I'm going to eat and I cut them into cubes or fries, or you can cut them into whatever shape you want. And then I season them with a little garlic and onion powder, a little bit of salt and pepper, and then I throw them onto my air frying rack, and I'm going to air fry these at 400 Fahrenheit or 204 Celsius for about 20 minutes until they're golden brown. Next, I'm making American goulash, which is typically made with pasta and ground beef and some vegetables, and it's basically like a really thick stew. So instead of the ground beef, I'm going to use red lentils. These are going to act as my protein-rich food in this dish, and they tend to break down a little bit in stews, plus they don't have a really strong flavor. What I'm doing is I dump these out on a tea towel and I pick through them for any stones or debris, then I give them a good rinse. I'm also using 1 clove of garlic, 2 tablespoons of Italian seasoning, the rest of the red onion and the bell peppers diced up, a 10-ounce package of mushrooms that I have diced up, 2 cups of water approximately, 1 15-ounce can of crushed tomatoes, 1 8-ounce can of tomato sauce, a half a cup of the red lentils that I've picked over and rinsed, and 1.5 cups of whole grain elbow pasta. Just like with the soup, I'm going to build layers of flavor. So I'm going to saute my onion in a splash of water with a little pinch of salt to help them sweat for about 5 to 8 minutes until they turn translucent and begin to brown. Throw in my garlic and saute for about a minute, and then I put in the mushrooms. It looks like a lot of mushrooms, but they're going to cook down to about half of their size, and mushrooms release a lot of liquid as they cook. So what I'm trying to do is cook until the liquid is evaporated. The mushrooms have cooked down, they start to brown, and that really concentrates their delicious flavor. Next, I'm going to add in my diced bell peppers, and I'm going to saute for about 5 minutes to let those flavors build a little bit. Then I'm going to add in the crushed tomatoes and the tomato sauce, and I'm also going to let this cook for about 5 minutes until the flavors concentrate and you can see that the sauce has reduced a bit. Next, I add in my lentils and my pasta, as well as my seasonings, and I give this a stir, and then I am going to put the lid on this and let it cook according to the package directions on the pasta, which al dente was about 9 to 10 minutes, I believe. Then I give it a little seasoning, and you can see that it has cooked down into a lovely goulash. All right, that is going to wrap up today's video. I hope you guys got some good ideas for some budget-friendly plant-based meal ideas. These would make great dinners with leftovers for lunches. If you like this video, I'm going to ask you to do 3 things for me: like, subscribe, and leave a comment down below. If you leave me a thumbs up, it tells me that you like the video and that I should make more videos like this in the future. And please leave me a comment if you've made any of these meals and how you enjoyed them, what your own personal twist would be on these, and whatever kinds of videos you guys would like to see me make in the future on this channel. And of course, subscribe. All right, so that's it for today. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video.